welcome back to our second installment of our 4-part series in which we look a little closer at the stigma surrounding sexual assault here at the University of Northern Iowa. My name is Angie Wilson.
And my name is Meg Swanson.
And today we are joined with Rachel Sharky at the Riverview Center. Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Good. So we just kind of want to hear about your position here on campus and maybe what the Riverview Center is. So you can kind of introduce yourself and kind of describe what you do here on campus.
Perfect. So like you said, my name is Rachel. I'm the UNI Campus Coordinator and Sexual Assault Advocate, and I work for the Riverview Center. So Riverview Center provides free and confidential services to anyone affected by sexual violence, and we always like to really focus on that our services are free and completely confidential. Outside of therapists, advocates don't have reporting duties, so we're like extra super confidential, so we're that place you can go to where you know nothing's going to get passed along or reported without your consent, if that makes sense. We provide quite a few different services. We provide medical advocacy, so myself and my coworkers are on call 24/7 to respond to local hospitals if anyone reports that they've been sexually assaulted, and we're there to help them know their rights and to be an emotional support during the sexual assault examination. We also help with any sort of medical needs or appointments that might be needed after that. We also do legal advocacy, so if somebody would want to report a crime, we never pressure that or assume that, but if somebody wanted to do that, we can go with them to report. We can be with them through the reporting process, be in police interviews, get case updates, talk to county attorneys, all the way to physically being in trial with individuals. We also can help get civil no contact orders as well. So we're just kind of there for medical and legal advocacy to help navigate those systems, make sure that their rights are being respected and they know their rights as survivors, and that they're never really going into anything not knowing what's going to happen or what it's going to look like.
Right.
So they kind of know what's up.
Right.
And then having kind of just like a person to be there as their support through that.
Awesome.
We also provide peer counseling as advocates. So we do like one-on-one counseling to work on things like processing what happened, coping skills, how to ground yourself, those kinds of things. We also do have a therapist in our Waterloo office. So sometimes if there are mental health issues that are rising above what an advocate can do, because I am not a therapist, we do have therapy as well, which is free.
Oh, wow.
And then we have a preventionist in our office as well. So she kind of goes around to different organizations, K through 12, doing prevention work. And we do have a hotline number as well. So we have quite a few things.
Yeah.
And we do have 5 offices across eastern Iowa and 1 in Illinois. So we cover 14 counties in Iowa and 2 counties in Illinois.
That's awesome. That's a lot of resources.
Yes, a lot of resources, and they're free and confidential, so they're great. My office is here on UNI's campus, so I'm in 2026 Bartlett. I'm kind of here solo. I'm plucked out of the Waterloo office, and I work here full time. So I do all of those services for any UNI students. That's the main population I serve. And then I can also help those individuals through any sort of reporting through the university or Title IX procedures. So I can be there kind of in the same capacity as legal, even though reporting through the university is not criminal. It's completely separate. But I can be there for Title IX interviews, help them through that process as well, all the way to hearings and stuff like that that happen on the university level. I can also help students get accommodations if they're needing help with other things, such as getting into counseling, moving dorm rooms, getting help with if they need to take some time to themselves, they miss some classes, get extensions on assignments, those kinds of things, just kind of things that would maybe come up. I work in collaboration with the Title IX office to coordinate those things with survivors.
Okay.
So, do you know what Title IX is?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
We're just learning.
Yes,
about
we're
it,
just
so,
learning.
Yeah.
So, really like slimmed down. Their office is in Gilcrest. If you didn't know, it's across the hall from the Dean of Students office in the Office of Compliance and Equity Management. So Title IX oversees any sort of misconduct based on gender, including sexual assault, sexual harassment, those kinds of things. So they have federal guidelines and protocols if anyone were to be sexually assaulted and is affiliated with the university. So student employee, faculty, things like that. So I'm actually on this campus because we have an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding with Title IX, and it's like a signed agreement, and that's why I am here, and we do a lot of coordination together, but we do a lot of things separately as well, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Since I'm an affiliate to the university, I don't work for the university, so I don't have those reporting duties.
Right. So I have never personally heard of the Riverview Center.
Mm-hmm.
If I was in some situation on campus, how would I find out about you, and how would I find that you are a resource to me?
Right. So kind of two different things. So if anyone were to ever, after an assault, kind of go to different entities that you would naturally think of, maybe the counseling center, dean of students, law enforcement, the hospital, they would get referred to me. With law enforcement and the hospitals, I get called no matter what. So that would instantly link you to me, if that makes sense.
Okay.
The Title IX office or the dean of students or counseling centers, most faculty, RAs, they know that I exist. So they would refer them. They don't have to see me. But basically anyone that someone would disclose to on campus that isn't like a friend would
Mm-hmm.
know that I'm the resource on campus, or that Riverview Center is the resource on campus.
Okay, perfect.
We are working on getting out more, I guess, like flyers and messaging and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a balance because we want to remain confidential, so I can't have like this big, bright, shining Riverview Center light
Right.
over my door. So it's kind of like this balance of kind of like quiet activism and quiet advocacy, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
But generally anyone would reach out to, I would be the next person
Okay.
to be called if that survivor wanted that.
Right. So is it usually the individuals that come to you, is it usually them come to you first, or do they seek somewhere else and then they come to you?
I think as students, so I've been in other roles as an advocate, but here on campus, a lot of times I'm kind of second. Like I said, if somebody goes to the hospital after a sexual assault, I'm dispatched right away. Like they don't talk to the survivor about me coming. I'm one of the people that are just there. So I don't know how to say this correctly. I serve a lot of people through that
Yeah.
avenue. But I would say I get referrals from lots of different faculty, RAs, counseling center, a lot, things like that. So it's a lot of referrals.
Okay.
In other parts of the area we cover, we're more well known, so people might know, they can just kind of walk in, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So, like, if something did happen to me, now I know you,
Mm-hmm.
and if I came to you first, what would be kind of, I don't know, the different things you would tell me to do, or the steps you would want me to take, or the avenues that I should go through?
Yes. So kind of the beginning spiel that I gave you, I would
Mhm.
give it again, or for the first time, to somebody about our services being confidential and free and what that means, and then kind of everything that I can do, and then talk to them and see what kind of makes sense, what fits with you. I never have somebody sit down and tell me their full story unless they want to. There's people I work with for months and months where I don't necessarily know their entire story.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of explain, here's what I can offer, what makes sense to you, what can I help you with, how can I be your person in this if you want to. And then it's really, really led by them and what they want and what feels right to them.
Right. So is it like a very professional relationship, or do they have the freedom to contact you outside the office if something is going wrong, or do they make appointments, or how does that work?
I would say it's leans towards professional. I can be, quote unquote, contacted outside of work. I do have a work cell phone, but for myself and my boundaries, I don't look at my work cell phone except
Right.
for at work hours.
Mhm.
If somebody was truly going through something or having something traumatic happen, we do have that hotline where it's trained advocates on the other line. It's not me, but that's available to them. I don't talk to clients outside of work or anything like that. I'm not friends with them or like see them.
Yeah.
It is professional, but at the same time, it's not clinical.
Right.
It's really laid back.
Okay.
So a lot of times people are very nervous when they come and see me, naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of realize it's pretty chill, it's pretty calm. Nothing's expected of them. There's nothing they have to do. I'm not going to pressure them to do anything. I actually cannot give advice or tell people what to do.
Right.
So it's giving options and then empowering whatever choices they make. So I kind of see that guard go down pretty quick, like, oh, this is like pretty calm
Right.
and chill, but there is like professional boundaries.
Is that like the main difference then between you and all the other resources? Is that it's more chill than like if I would go to, I don't know, the authorities or all the other avenues I could go to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that
I
one
think
of the main
that's
things?
a big part of it. Is we're not a system. We're not clinical like that, and you're not reporting to anybody. We're just there to listen.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very different in that aspect, and an advocate is a really kind of unique role. There's kind of really nothing like it because like all the things that I listed before, we'll do other things too. It's kind of just whatever a survivor is needing support with.
Right.
So it is more laid back. I think the confidentiality piece is the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
When people learn that we're not mandatory reporters, we're not gonna be like, you need to tell the police or you need to do this, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that relaxed dynamic is what kind of separates it from other roles.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of just my personal curiosity. I'm kind of just wondering how you got into this line of work and what makes you passionate about this line of work, if you're comfortable with talking about
Yeah,
that.
for sure. So I actually originally went to school for cosmetology. I went to a Nevada Institute.
Oh, yeah.
So I used to do hair and makeup, and I'm originally from Cedar Falls. I went to Des Moines to go to school, and then I came back, and I actually decided to volunteer for the Riverview Center. So I was volunteering, and a job opened up, and I was encouraged to apply for the job, and I got the job. It was kind of not really in my plans, I guess. You know what I mean? I didn't that wasn't what I was setting out to do, but it kind of just naturally happened. And it's something I've always just been really passionate about. I like kind of all aspects of activism and social justice. I'm really passionate about a lot of, I guess I'm intersectionally passionate about a lot of different issues. Sexual violence has always been really up there for me for personal reasons, and just because it's such a huge issue and it affects so many people, and the way our society thinks sexual assault is and what it looks like and what responses are and what a survivor is completely off balance, kind of off the truth. So I just have a really big passion to help people and validate people and empower people and to spread awareness on what sexual violence really is and what it looks like.
I love it. Yeah, when I was a freshman, I came into college as a very naive, small town Iowa girl that most of us are.
Yep.
And
it's a lot. Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of us that are, and I quickly, college opened my eyes to what could possibly happen to individuals like myself. So then I never thought it would happen to me or anybody else I knew. And then resources like yourself and others, I was totally naive about that. I know we had to take a class, or we had to take an online training our freshman year.
It was before you even could enroll for any classes.
Right. So
It's a
yeah.
special moment,
Yeah. So and then, but as we got through school, and now this is my third year here, I'm learning more and more, but I'm still, it's not, if I wasn't in this class, I wouldn't be on my radar,
Right.
So do you think there are some certain steps that as the university needs to take with different trainings throughout our college career?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what we had talked about preparing for this, in that you do have that one little like seminar that you go through, and then they bring it up at your orientation, but after that it's just dropped.
And how much do you pay attention to that?
Exactly.
And how much you're just clicking through it because you want to get done. So like we were trying to decide like how do we focus more on the prevention aspect of it rather than like, okay, now this happened, like we need to stop this from happening, but so how do we like work before it even happens?
So there's a few things, and many individuals on the university know that orientation needs to be better. So we know that, and it's a work in progress. It's not as simple as you would think it is. But there is prevention work that is done on campus. It's kind of a twofold thing. So I do prevention on campus.
Oh, okay.
I predominantly, clients and survivors are going to come first. So that's going to take up the bulk of my time. I'm not going to cancel on a client to do a presentation, but I do lots of presentations in different classrooms, different organizations, sororities, fraternities, for faculty, pretty much whenever asked if I can do it. And then we do have other entities such as Title IX that does do some prevention work, and the Center for Violence Prevention does some prevention work. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the fraternity SIGEP. Their philanthropy is sexual assault prevention and awareness, and I know they do some work as well. I think the biggest issue is there isn't a devoted position to prevention, because all of those entities that I just mentioned we have things we have to focus on, and that prevention's not our main priority. Does that make sense? So it's like Title IX office is going to focus on what they need to focus on, and if they can do prevention, they will.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
I think if we had a dedicated position or organization committee, I don't know what that would exactly look like, that could devote all their energy to that, kind of how in our office we have a preventionist and that's all she does. I think it's hard because we all try and we collaborate a lot, but it's like we have our main job to do, and then does that make sense? And the prevention is like secondary, which I don't want it to be, but
that's
I'm the only person.
And you have to put your focus towards those individuals who need the help.
So I think that would be like life-changing for a campus to have like kind of how I'm placed here as an advocate, if there's someone placed here as a preventionist.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Definitely.
I guess I didn't think about that. So
comes down to funding and that kind of stuff. That is like
logistics. Every time. Are there any other ways that you think you and I could improve in the way we look at sexual assault or handle sexual assault?
I think it's a lot of that education and prevention work, because so many people do come in naive, and it's not like it's with good intent. You just if you don't know what you don't know, and there are stigmas and beliefs and kind of a culture on campus that contributes to a culture of sexual violence, and if we never talk about it, it never gets addressed.
Right.
You don't have those like light bulb moments of like, wait, that does happen, or I do contribute to this. So besides like having that devoted prevention, I mean, if you kind of have those people that are willing to talk about it and have those hard conversations, or call things out when they see them, that's kind of what is realistic in changing a culture.
Right.
And I mean, like, especially in recent years, like, the issue of sexual assault, sexual violence has especially, like, come to the forefront with the Me Too movement, the Time's Up movement. Have you noticed a change in that, like, locally, or anything that's affected locally by that?
Definitely. So I did work before any of that happened, before when Obama was president is when I started working, I guess is what I'll say. And yeah, a lot changed. A lot more people, I feel like, felt like they could come forward. And it's just talked about all the time. Even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you wouldn't see it on social media, you wouldn't see it in the news, you wouldn't see it anywhere, and that's 2 years ago. And now it's everywhere all the time. So I think it's made it a little bit less taboo for me to talk about when I'm doing like presentations, especially with like classes. I mean, there's usually like 5 or 6 people that have a face full of dread when I walk in. But, you know, it's less like, yeah, like I know about this. I've heard about this. I know what this is. And I think that's helped to open dialogue. But I think it's kind of a very beginning.
Right. Yeah.
For sure.
Going back to my naive self, it's terrible, I'm telling you. How frequent do you think we are affected here at UNI? Like, I guess when I was a freshman, I didn't think, you know, anything happened. And then as I got older, you know, you hear more, but in your position, you obviously are firsthand with it. How frequent does it actually occur here on campus? How much does it affect our students, et cetera?
I think it affects a lot more students than people realize. And I have this conversation a lot, too, when I am meeting with a college student and they're like, no one understands, no one gets this, no one knows what I'm going through, which is true. Everyone has individual experiences. And I explained to them that, you know, I can pretty much assure you you're constantly surrounded by survivors. On campuses throughout the college experience, 1 in 4 women will experience sexual assault in their college experience.
Wow.
And then this one like changes here and there, but it's usually about 1 in 6 men. And then as a whole lifespan, if this makes sense, so in a lifetime, 1 in 2 women are affected, 1 in 2 trans individuals, and 1 in 6 men. So, you know, I have these conversations with clients a lot, like, if you're with a room full of women, 50% of them have been affected by this. You know, I bet a lot of you are sitting there feeling alone together, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So it does affect a lot of the people, and we also know those statistics. Both of those are from RVAP. They're kind of like the Riverview Center, but for a different portion. It's a victim services agency for southeastern Iowa, kind of like Iowa City and South. It's on their website. I don't know exactly where they source it, but just so you know, I'm not just making this up.
Hey, thanks.
But that it affects a lot of people. It really does, if you think about that. And like I said, the report or the statistics are based on reporting.
I was just thinking that, like, how many of those, or like how many are
on campus, only 7% of students report. So we're missing over 90% of survivors with those stats. And then I want to say it's 86% of individuals don't report to authorities.
Would you be considered a report because you're confidential?
No.
So if people come talk to you, they're still getting help and resources, but it just technically... we're not a system. Right.
So it's not like, I don't report their information to anybody.
Right.
So it wouldn't be like calculated, if that makes sense.
Right. So that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yes.
That maybe some of those individuals are coming to you and getting the help.
Yeah, I just think that people, like you said with the Me Too movement and stuff, are like, oh, this is an issue, but it's even bigger than I think that light bulb moment is.
Right.
It's so prevalent.
Yeah. What's one of the hardest things you've had to go through during this position?
I think there's so many different like aspects and things that I do.
Right.
I think it's hard. The hardest thing, and it's even more complex than my own privilege, but working with marginalized communities and seeing how many more barriers that they face when seeking help with sexual violence, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think of an example. I think it's just hard to see systems fail people. Another statistic that is pretty jarring, I guess, for most people is out of every 1,000 assaults that are reported, 996 of those individuals will walk free. They will not, of the perpetrators, will not be prosecuted, will not go to jail.
Wow.
So I think it's hard when you know, somebody does want to report and really going through that process and seeing what that means, and that it's very re-traumatizing and it's very unlikely that anything will happen. And seeing those kinds of things, and especially marginalized communities are affected even higher for different reasons. I think that's hard to explain to people and explain that this doesn't mean this didn't happen. It doesn't mean that, you know, you're not valid, or that I don't believe you, or that this officer doesn't believe you, or this county attorney doesn't believe you, but the system isn't set up amazingly for sexual assault survivors.
Yeah. So do you think, like, because of the low percentage of people not reporting on campus, it has something to do with, like, the resources we provide, or do you think it's just in general, you know, those individuals don't feel?
I think people have a lot of fear around reporting for different reasons. I think the most common thing I hear is, I don't want to ruin this person's life, which a lot of people think, you know, who would think like that, but people are human, and around 90% of the time, sexual assaults are done by somebody you know.
That's crazy.
So if you know, we have this idea in our society that it's this creepy person in a van, the person, this, you know, the creepy dude at the back of the bar, like those kinds of things, but it's generally your boyfriend, your family member, your coworker, your classmate, people you know, and they use that to their advantage.
Because you're comfortable.
Yeah. They use that vulnerability. And so that already, if you can think of just that barrier alone of, are you going to report your boyfriend or your ex-boyfriend? Or are you going to report, you know, like that adds like a barrier of like, I don't want to ruin their life.
Right.
Or, you know, it wasn't that bad. There's a lot of self-victim blaming that happens. That happens a lot. And then I think it's just fear of, you're going to go through this entire process and you don't know what's going to happen. You could go through months and months of a process legally or on campus, and somebody could be found not guilty or not responsible.
What's the typical, like, duration of the process?
Criminally, several years. Generally, if you report a crime and it makes it through kind of, I say, all the hoops, you know, the investigation, the county attorney wants to take it on, going to trial, I would say from the day you report, 1 to 2 years later, you'll be in trial.
Wow.
And then the university process is not criminal. They do their best to compact it more. I don't want to say exactly. I would say it's generally from when you would go in and report to the end around a semester. It could be shorter, it could be longer, depending on cooperation of certain individuals or what that certain case is.
It's just crazy to me that if it's somebody on campus and you're on campus, you could pass them every single day to the end of the semester before it's actually resolved.
Is there anything that they can do, like, were you about to get there?
Oh, so there's things so that's filing a formal complaint would be that kind of, if you wanted to do that process. In the meantime, whether you wanted to file a formal complaint or not, you can get accommodations that I mentioned earlier, some of those things,
that's right,
including a no contact order that is just for the jurisdiction of campus. But like you said, that would still be helpful. So they couldn't pass you, they couldn't come up and talk to you, those kinds of things. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
And
so
then,
like, if you're in the same building, how does that, is it just like close contact because it's on campus?
Is that on the victim to, like,
it's
to be responsible that they can't be around that person? Or I think it should be on...
Yeah, it's generally on the accused at this point.
Oh, okay.
In my world, yes, perpetrator. But the accused, it's on them to remove themselves first. There are unique scenarios where if somebody, they both have class at the same time, like, it gets kind of worked out, if that makes sense. But they can have other things, like they can move dorms and they can move with their roommate, or the accused can move dorms or change dining halls, things like that. Basically anything possible to make you as comfortable as possible, even if somebody doesn't want to report. Maybe they just want to feel safe as possible, but they don't want to make that formal complaint.
Oh, okay.
But but if there's a formal complaint, no matter what, with that formal complaint comes a no contact order.
Okay, that makes sense.
But it's only for you and I, so if you're on College Hill, that's not...
Yeah, if you live off campus.
But you can always get another kind of no contact order, but the one issued by the university is just the jurisdiction of the university. It's encouraged for the persons to not talk to each other, but you can't really hold that accountable outside of the university.
Right. Wow.
Speaking of that, so I know that you're, like, on UNI's campus, but if someone did get assaulted off campus, could they still come and talk to you the same way?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So, and somebody can still get help through the Title IX office. It doesn't have to be on campus. That would be very limiting. And if you're a UNI student, no matter if it happened in another city, you could still get help here. The only time that you could launch an investigation with the university is the accused has to be associated with the university.
Oh.
If that makes sense. Because if somebody's not a student here or a student, employer, faculty, how would the university hold them responsible?
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like if somebody went to a different college, they can't do anything.
Right.
Like they can't.
Right.
Does that make sense?
What if they, I guess so, if they lived on campus and went to Hawkeye, that would still count because they're still tied to the university. Okay. But yeah, I guess I didn't think about that if they're entirely off campus.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know that there's like a lot of like negative things like that go along with this, or it's not a happy thing to like, talk about. But I feel like in your position, you do kind of get those moments where you're like proud to be doing what you're doing, of course. So, like, what's one time that really stuck out for you that you like really just loved what you were able to do?
I don't know if I can think of or speak on a very specific time. I think watching people change from the first time I meet them and kind of, it sounds cheesy, but like blossom, like, you know, kind of whatever that looks like for them, and watching them be resilient and watching them find themselves again and heal. Like, I think that's how I continue to do the work. And obviously wins, like when, you know, somebody does go to trial and their perpetrator is found guilty, like those are amazing. Or when somebody is granted a no contact order, or those are great, but those are rare and not common in everybody that they're going to go through that process and make it that far. I think it's just kind of watching people realize it wasn't their fault, and that kind of that moment of realizing it's not their fault and just stopping to blame themselves and kind of heal from that moment, I think is really cool to watch.
That's awesome.
I usually meet people at rock bottom, and so to see them come up from rock bottom is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know. Do you have anything else, Meg?
I can't really think of anything. I just know that I think it's really great what you're doing on campus, or what Riverview is doing completely. I feel like it's really needed, though, like especially in this kind of climate. So
for sure. And it's always like, sometimes it shocks me, and it shocks me when I tell people that we're the only people in northeastern Iowa that serve survivors of sexual violence. So it's us.
That's great. I didn't know that.
Oh, you're just Riverview Center is it?
Yep.
For all of northeast Iowa.
Yes.
Wow.
So that would cover, because
us.
Yeah.
We're from northeast Iowa.
And we live like an hour.
What county?
Fayette.
Yep.
In Delaware.
Yep. I've done some work in those counties too. But there's different offices that cover different counties.
Oh, okay.
So it's not literally just our office, but each office has like 4 to 6 counties that they cover.
Wow. That's crazy.
I didn't realize that.
Me either.
Yeah, every county in the United States has an advocacy center covering their county.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, I guess I don't have any more questions for you, but I kind of want to give you the last platform if you want to make a plug for our listeners, maybe like what the hotline is, or just that your door's always open, anything that you want to.
Or I know, is it April Sexual Assault Awareness Month?
Yes.
So our office number is 319-939-9599. That is going to go to the Waterloo office. At the end of the day, that's rolled to our hotline. So if you were to call during, I'm going to say air quotes, business hours, which changes because we're all doing crisis response, you'll get the office and you can get whatever help you need. But then if it's nights, weekends, holidays, it will connect to the hotline and they'll get that message back to us. So that's one way to get in contact. And then April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which is a lot. For me, it's kind of like my Christmas of the year. There's a lot going on. On campus, there is a Sexual Assault Awareness Week that goes on. It's the week of the 8th this year, and Riverview Center partners with the fraternity Sig Ep. They have events every single day that week, and they fundraise for us, which is really awesome. There's some different events that will be kind of blasted out on social media. So if you are on Facebook or Instagram, keeping up with either Sig Ep's social media or Riverview Centers, will have a lot of these events. But we have some different things going on. We have a survivor panel of survivors speaking, and I think that'll be really good. That's always really influential. They do the annual seesaw. I don't know if you've ever seen that before. You'll have to experience it. It's at Mocker. It's on the 8th, and they members of Sig Ep are on a seesaw for 24 hours to kind of signify how sexual assault kind of never stops, and that you can't just like get off and be done with it. And the saw and seesaw is like SAAW, you know. Yeah, I didn't come up with these activities, but they've been doing them for a long time. And we have just different events throughout that week. And I also partner with Northern Iowa Femmes and Title IX office, and we do things like Take Back the Night. I don't know if you've ever heard about that event. There's also going to be an exhibit this month in Camrick called What Were You Wearing? I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that.
Yes, one of the girls in our group actually just talked to us about that.
Well, yeah, so kind of fighting that cliche victim blaming statement of, well, what were you wearing, or you know, what you're wearing must have been your consent to being sexually assaulted, which is an oxymoron in a sentence.
Right.
But and so it's going to be people from UNI's campus submitting what they were wearing and having displays of that. So it's a pretty powerful display. There's honestly so many events during the month, but those are things that kind of stick out to me that I think are powerful. Again, kind of keeping up on Riverview Center social media or Sig Ep's, other ones too, probably Northern Iowa Femmes. Just you'll see a lot of different events during the month of April.
Awesome. Perfect.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah, well, again, Rachel, we just want to say thank you so much for coming here and joining us on today's show. We really do appreciate just sharing your knowledge on this topic with us. That is all we have time for today, but make sure that you check out part 3, where we'll be speaking with the Title IX officer for UNI. So we'll see you guys next time.